Off to IO we go.
Big day today.
So I joked, but I could honestly see this happening, and let me justify it. You're gonna laugh.
hmm
I joked that I'm looking forward to Google announcing a new messaging application today on the Twitters. But now let me just back up a second because
Yep.
I could lay a reasonable foundation for why it might actually happen or sometime in the near future.
Because it's happened at every other IO.
Pretty much. I think their last major messaging initiative or whatever was the RCS, the rich context whatever.
Yeah. Before that, it
And
was Duo, and what was the other one called? It's gone, I think. Alto, maybe? Or
something whatever.
something. Amos and Andy? I don't remember.
There's a lot of them. Anyways, so they announced that, and to their
Earl and Hardy.
to their credit or whatever, they tried to do sort of the right thing by using an open standard, and they went to the carriers and said, "Let's all use the open standard, and
Yep.
and our messaging will be good." And they all said,
That made sense. It
they
made
all said
tons of
yes.
sense.
And then
Yep.
what? That was like 2019. And then, no joke, like 3 months ago, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile all said, "Yeah, we're going to abandon that."
It was a healthy reminder that the wireless carriers in the United States are possibly the worst companies that ever
Yes.
existed, ever.
Yes. So here's my justification that Google just needs to take a look at iMessage and do
Mhm.
exactly that. That if you
And
punch in a
by the
phone
way,
number and then
Google has a rich history of doing just that. So
but they should. This is what they should have done 10 years ago is when they saw this. Oh, they just automatically match up phone numbers and realize that we can route it through our own stuff. Screw the carriers. They're not going to help us. We're not going to help them.
So here's the thing. You and I, and most people probably listening to this podcast, have a
Mhm.
rich history in understanding how this doesn't work out for companies that try to do this, right?
Right.
Because Microsoft was in this position. In fact, one of my most infamous exchanges in my history of writing about Microsoft or covering Microsoft as a profession was at the original Windows 7 Phone 7 launch,
Mhm.
where Joe Belfiore stood up and said, "Yeah, the carriers are going to blah blah blah." And there was a guy from AT&T, the might have been the CEO of AT&T, was in the room. And I said, "You realize the carrier's never going to do what you just described, right?" I
Yeah.
called him on it. I was like, "That's not going to happen." And he's like, "Oh, and someone actually said, Paul, AT&T is here in the room." I'm like, "Good, we'll have them come up and tell everyone that they're not going to screw us all over," because they are.
Mhm.
And they did, because that's what they do. Not because I'm like some kind of a genius and I saw the future. I mean, it's just obvious. The carriers are terrible. And the feeling there was, oh, Microsoft's a big company. They're bigger than AT&T. They can deal with this. And it's like, no, these guys, they are the gatekeeper. This is the conversation we're always having with big tech today. It's ironic that these guys are the gatekeepers for big tech. But sorry to beat it to death. I mean, one of Apple's greatest successes was finding a carrier, by the way, AT&T, which would not prevent it from doing what it wanted to do. And that's one of the reasons that iMessage could have happened on the iPhone.
Mhm.
Because normally carriers would have, like other carriers probably with iMessage, would have said, "No, you're not doing this. This has to work, with all the phones in our network." But Apple just has that unique. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but Google doesn't have that. Despite the fact that 50% of the phones sold in this country are Android phones, and probably 80% worldwide, whatever the figure is. They just don't. I don't think they're going to be able to do what you just described. I agree 100%. It's the right. How
It's the
else
only
could
way
you
they'll
possibly?
ever build one that
Yeah.
people
So
use.
maybe the way that will probably work if it happens is some carriers will support it. They won't be in the United States, or maybe they'll find one friendly carrier. T-Mobile probably,
Mhm.
who will agree to support it. And the other carriers they'll have to just push through SMS and MMS. That's the only way that this makes sense. Not because what you said doesn't make what you said is
Yeah.
100% correct. Um, every time I hear, anytime you think about the carriers, the same conversation keeps happening. And like you said, these idiots all collectively just said no to this.
Mhm.
Seriously. What? No one is charging per message anymore. What's the
Yeah.
problem?
The problem is,
Crazy.
Paul, is that they don't want to do it. They just want to be a dumb pipe after spending
But
billions
they're
on
not a
media
dumb pipe.
companies.
They're worse than a dumb pipe. They're a blockage in the pipe.
Yeah.
Like,
We need some Drano.
yeah, this is, I don't know. It's not World War III or anything, but I mean, this kind of behavior it's not just anti-competitive, it's anti-consumer, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And that's why Apple did it their ways. They didn't technically they didn't force you to do it because you can turn it off, but they
Yes.
auto magically made it happen that as long as
That's right.
the two phone numbers were registered in their database, it just turned it on. And
no one is ever proactively going to go into an iPhone and turn off that capability,
because it's
other
better.
than down the road after you've had a couple of them and you've had kids and some of the kids have Android phones or whatever it is, or you have some collection of friends that are all on Android phones, and what you've discovered is there are problems, and so you've decided proactively, okay, I'm going to go Google how to do this, and I have to turn a couple things off. But yeah, so at least they give you that capability. But let's face it, I actually do that myself, but I do it kind of knowing no one else is doing this. like why would anyone do this? Normally, yeah. It's funny. I wasn't even thinking about this issue when you started talking. I'm getting kind of fired up about it. Sorry.
Well, since we dogged on Google, let's dog on Apple. So yesterday they announced their hi-fi audio, which is coming for free, which, whatever. The brilliance here is
for
that
no additional cost.
Their $549 AirPod Pro or AirPod Maxes will not support this.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. What now? There's some couple qualifiers here, but the first thing I'm going to say, you're going to be like, well, okay, I get that. But the second part is the absolute gotcha. Ready? Technically, Bluetooth cannot support lossless audio from any vendor. Doesn't matter if it's these Surface headphones, doesn't matter if it's Apple. So they marginally get a pass on that. But it also doesn't support it when it's plugged in using a lightning cable.
It's okay. That I did not anticipate. I'm literally writing an article about high-res audio right now, and a big part of it is the hardware incompatibility stuff. And we can discuss a little chunk of that in a moment. But I find it odd that on the eve of this announcement, Apple got rid of their full-sized HomePods, which I think would have been uniquely situated to provide incredible spatial and lossless audio capabilities in a house.
Unless it didn't work with those.
Okay, that's. I am going to go look, honestly, find out, because this is the thing. So, for example, the chunk of it I thought we should discuss is we have Sonos equipment. Sonos equipment. If you look at the high-res audio, I'm going to call them tiers, even though there aren't prices associated with them anymore. But the tiers that Amazon and Apple offer are identical. There's a lossless tier and then a lossless HD tier, or whatever. They have different names, but the middle tier, we'll call it, above standard definition streaming, which is 256, 320, somewhere in there, or can be, is what we'll call CD quality, right? And then the next one up is up to it's lossless, like it's up to 192, whatever, kilohertz or whatever. And then the bit rates are, like I said, 256, 320, 850, and then I think some crazy number, 3730, So if you want to download these to your phone, they're going to take up a lot more space. If you want to stream them, though, they're going to take up a lot more bandwidth, and you have to have hardware that supports it. And Sonos equipment supports the middle tier that I just described, the CD quality tier. It's not technically lossless. It's literally not lossless. Maybe that's the better way to say it, even though in both cases it's part of a lossless offering. So it's kind of up to lossless. So I don't know how that gets resolved, other than new Sonos equipment down the road we can all upgrade to at great expense. But if you intend to listen to this on headphones, like in the Apple stuff, you need specific chipsets in your headphones and or your phones. I believe the lossless stuff only supports the very most recent Macs, iPhones, and whatever else is out there, Apple TVs, I guess. Headphones, same thing. AirPods, Beats, it has to have whatever the Apple series chips are. I'd have to go look it up again. I don't remember the U series or whatever they are.
W1, I think.
H1, sorry. H1 and W1, yep. So there's actually, it's a lot of confusion. Like if you're an audio enthusiast of any kind, you've been kind of looking to this. And you think of, obviously Tidal came out. Amazon added their lossless /HD tiers, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Spotify announced they were going to do this. Spotify announced that the pricing would be competitive, but I don't know how that could be the case now unless they don't charge extra for it. And now Apple has come in. And of course, Apple's, by the way, also is offering spatial audio capabilities, Dolby Atmos. That's unique. And that makes, that requires that new Apple stuff, obviously. That is interesting, I think if you bought it's hard to know where to go from here because it's hard to keep this in your head. But if you were an Amazon HD guy, Amazon Music, you could buy the Amazon Echo Studio, and I believe that will do the lossless tiers all the way up. I think. Apple, I haven't looked it up yet. You asked about, I am going to look at that. We'll see what the quality level is on the now discontinued old one and the new one they have. Other than that, you're going to have to go through some pretty serious audio equipment, right? I mean, Sonos, like I said, only supports the middle tier. This is, it's nice, but it's really confusing. He says, babbling for 10 minutes about it.
It is. And it's, I don't know. I don't see myself rushing out to buy new hardware for any of this.
No, me neither. In fact, part of the article I'm going to publish hopefully today is there's a site you can go to test back-to-back different quality levels of music. And the truth is a lot of people won't be able to tell the difference anyway. The good news is this, because Apple is not charging extra for this, and now Amazon is not as well, right? So Amazon announced yesterday, they used to, I think, charge an extra $5 a month for the two higher end tiers. Now they're not. We'll see what Spotify does. They're kind of screwed by this. Spotify can't subsidize this service like Amazon and Apple can. And of course, Google's out there with a cricket chirping, no news ever on what their plans are for this. Of course, that's the one I use. There's a great chance for most people that with the equipment they have, or even with the best possible equipment there is, for most songs or in most circumstances, they might not even notice the difference. So that's important, or I should say it's more important when you're going to pay extra for that capability, right? Because maybe you should. But now that you don't have to, it's like, well, these things will typically stream to the quality level either you configure in an app or whatever it is, or to just what the hardware can support. So, if you have Amazon HD and you're going through a studio, Echo Studio speaker, maybe you're getting that full end, high actual lossless. And if you're going through Sonos speakers, you're getting the mid-tier whatever the CD quality, lossless with air quotes around it. I think for me, regardless of HD audio, as I guess we should call it HD audio, not lossless. I always, it's like I'm not worried about streaming quality over, or I should say, bandwidth over cellular. So I just say, just do the best. Just give me the best you can give. And so that doesn't really change, right? So, well, actually, that might change because those songs could take up a lot more space on the phone. It's confusing. I say it's confusing because it's confusing.
Yeah. I was going to say the number one reason I'm not probably going to be paying for it or going down that route is usually when music is playing, I have a 7-year-old screaming in my house. So I'm really going to enjoy that lossless over her screaming and dropping things.
Well, I mean, look, if you're listening to Sonos, you want it, or whatever you're listening to, it doesn't matter. It could be an Echo tube speaker thing. I mean, you want the best quality you can get for sure. Right. I mean, all other things being equal, if at home you're not going to pay more for more bandwidth in most places. Out in the world with your phone, you probably are in most cases. So I guess in that case, maybe it's like when over cellular, apps have these things, right? Only stream up to whatever, and when on Wi-Fi, stream up to whatever, like a higher number. And that's probably the way these apps are already configured. So it's going to be something to pay attention to and think about, I guess.
Yep.
Man, I was not prepared for this.
Well, that's
a lot of stuff going on.
There is. I mean, the music streaming stuff is really confusing. Because there's so many options, and then just trying to understand where your music is, what it's playing on, gets a little.
I feel like when Tidal came out, and I'm sure there are other kind of high res audio choices that audiophiles might point to. When those things came out, it's very reminiscent of that. The battle royale type games like Fortnite, where it's, I kind of made the comment like, well, this is just a game mode that Call of Duty could do. Like, I don't understand how these things exist after Call of Duty adds this game mode. And of course they existed fine. But with music, it's like, well, the Tidal and whatever else, it's cute. But you realize Apple, Spotify, and whoever else are going to add these options. So those services are temporary. I mean, they're not going to exist anymore. There's no reason. No one's going to go with some niche company no one's ever heard of when the big guys all offer it. I don't know what took so long.
Well, I think we can make the same argument about Google messaging. Like how I brought that up.
They try. They try.